Alright, I'm going to start talking about the appendicular skeleton now. So axial skeleton we talked about was like the thoracic cage, skull, and the vertebrae. Appendicular is everything else, so mostly the appendages, so our arms and legs. Then also we'll be talking about our pelvis. If you haven't noticed my shirt yet, dead ass. It's a pelvis, dead ass, it's dead. Okay, so I'm just going to go through again like I did axial skeleton with your handout. I'm not going to be talking about a lot of the features because again you can just look at your like diagrams and stuff in your manual. I'm not going to waste your time, but just so you get like a general overview and can kind of visualize a little bit better where stuff's at. So our pectoral girdle is kind of like our shoulder area up here. So it's what attaches our arm to the rest of our body. So it's made up of two bones, our clavicle, which is our collarbone. So this bone here is our clavicle, and our scapula, which is our shoulder blade in the back here. So those two make up our pectoral girdle. Again, it's what's holding our arm to the rest of our body. So with our clavicle, our collarbone, there's only two things you need to know, and you need to be able to identify which end is which. So let me get out an individual bone. So if you look at the clavicle, not much to it really. You can tell that the two sides are different. So you have one side that's nice and flat. If you look at it from the end, it's like flat. This other side is really round and like more blunt, as a flat end that's like up and down instead of a flat end that's sideways. So that's how you tell which side is which. So this really round end is going to be the sternal end, is what's going to attach to your sternum. So the side here is going to be more medial, right? And then the flat end is going to be your acromial end. And it's called the acromial end because it attaches, so you can see right here, it's attaching to this structure, which is the acromion process of your scapula. Okay, so the acromial end attaches to your scapula, the acromial process. Sternal end, this blunt side, attaches to your sternum. Okay, so if you see on a quiz or exam an image of this, the flatter side is acromial, the blunter side is going to be the sternal end. Okay, also with the pectoral girdle we have our scapula, which I said before. So our scapula is our shoulder blade. Some major features, and before I go too far, on your handout, some of the words have an asterisk by them. Those bones you're going to need to know right from left. So I'm going to make sure I explain how to tell for those. So scapula is one that you need to know right from left. So to be able to tell right from left, you first need to be able to tell which way like in your body it goes, right? So when I'm figuring out if a bone's a right or a left bone, the first thing what I really do is just like hold it up to myself and then figure out on myself if it's right or left. So first thing to look for on a scapula is this ridge. So you can see only one side has this ridge. This is called the spine of the scapula, and that faces the back of our bodies. Okay, so this really flat side is going to be anterior or towards the front. This is called our subscapular fossa. Okay, with our spine, we have a fossa above and a fossa below. A fossa is just a big flat spot. So we have our supraspinous fossa, supra above the spine, supraspinous fossa, and then our infraspinous fossa. So again, spine, infra, below, our infraspinous fossa. Okay, but our spine's gonna face the back, right? So spine faces the back of our body, like this. But then we need to tell if it's going to be a right or a left. So the next thing you look for is this cavity here. So this is our glenoid cavity. We have our acromion process on the top, which is where our clavicle attaches. This glenoid cavity is where our humerus, the head of our humerus, is going to attach for our arm. So you can see on here, the humerus is attaching to that glenoid cavity. So our glenoid cavity has to be lateral, right? It's not going to be in the middle, obviously, because our arm's not coming out of the middle of our backs. So what I do is hold it up to myself. So spine to the back, but that doesn't make sense, right? Because our glenoid cavity is in the middle, spine to the back, glenoid cavity out. So this would be a left scapula. So if there's a picture of one, just kind of, it's harder if you don't have the physical thing, obviously, but just kind of try to visualize where it'd be on you. So if you're looking at it and you see the spine, remember the glenoid cavity has to be lateral, so you can figure out just looking at it. You're looking from the back side, so this would be a left one. If you're seeing it from the front side and the glenoid cavity is this way, it's the same thing, you just kind of have to flip it around in your head, okay? But that is your scapula. These make up your pectoral girdle. Okay, again, I'm skipping over some stuff. Next, in our arm, we have 3 major bones in our arm. Our humerus, which is the most proximal, so closest to the point of origin. Again, that's the head of the humerus, which is this round spot, is what's attaching to that glenoid cavity. Okay, so it's important that you do know articulations and can use directional terms to describe the bones. So again, head of humerus attaches to glenoid cavity, and this is the most proximal bone in our arm. In our lower arm, we have 2 bones, our radius and our ulna. You can see here there's 2 bones. And then we have a number of bones in our hand. We have our carpal bones, our metacarpals, which is the first row of long bones, and then our phalanges, which are the most distal long bones in our hands. I'm not going to go through all these with you. You can look at them in your book. I don't want to waste your time. But our humerus, you need to know right from left. So again, this is what the humerus looks like. First thing you need to know to determine right or left is the head of the humerus, which is this big round spot. Okay, that's going to be more proximal, so your humerus is going to be like this. But then you need to figure out which way your humerus goes to figure out if it's right or left. So next thing you look at, on the bottom, these all are things you need to know, but I'm going to skip over them. The only one important thing that I want to make sure, I mean the others are important too, but on the back side there's this huge divot. That's your olecranon fossa. Your olecranon fossa faces the back side, is posterior. So you see that really big divot, that's going to be posterior. You have a little one on the front, but not as big as the olecranon, so that's going to be facing the back. So your olecranon fossa faces the back, and then the head has to be medial, because that's what's attaching. So this would be a right bone, okay? So olecranon fossa is the posterior side, and then the head's going to be medial. So again, a little bit more difficult if you're looking at a picture, but you're just going to have to manipulate it in your head. Our radius and ulna are the bones of our lower arm. These are them. Radius is the one with like the circle. I think, you know, you can measure the radius of a circle. So the radius is the circle one. And the ulna is the one with the U at the top. See the bottoms. A lot of features you need to know here, but I just want to focus on knowing which one's medial and which one's lateral. So they're both in your lower arm. Obviously in the anatomical position, your palms are forward. So you have one bone that's going to be more medial on the pinky side and one bone that's more lateral on the thumb side. The way I remember, ulna is the U. I remember UP, we live in the UP, ulna pinky. UP, ulna pinky. So ulna is on the pinky side, which means it's more medial. Our radius is on the thumb side, which means it's more lateral. So in the anatomical position, ulna is medial, radius is lateral. Another way to think of it, if you've ever taken like a radial pulse, you take the pulse like right here on your wrist, on your thumb side, because that's where your radius is, right? Radial pulse. Okay? Again, the hand you can do on your own. Moving on. Pelvis. You need to know male versus female. So the main thing to look at here is this arch. So on the male pelvis, this one here, that arch is much narrower than the female pelvis. You see that? And if you look from the bottom, female has a larger opening, tailbone's not quite as curved. Male, tailbone's really curved, this is smaller. This here is smaller. Obviously females, if they're giving birth, Needs to be a wider angle, larger opening for babies. Babies, no babies, right? So there might be a picture with two of them side by side. You need to be able to identify male versus female. The only other thing I want to talk about on the pelvis, obviously there's a lot more again, but I'm going to skip it. On each side you have these little divots. It's called the acetabulum. Acetabulum is important because that's where our femur, the big bone in our upper leg, is going to attach. So the head of the femur attaches to the acetabulum of our pelvis. See that? So acetabulum is a really important one. Okay. Femur, again, the biggest bone, really meaty guy. Head is going to be more proximal. And then the bottom here, that's going to be distal, where our knee is. This you also need to be able to tell right from left. Really easy. The head obviously is going to be medial, because that's where it attaches. And then if you look at the bottom, you can see these two bumps on the back side. So those are the condyles. So you have a medial and a lateral condyle down here. Medial is obviously going to be the side where the head is, lateral on the outside. But the bigger the bumps kind of go towards the back. You can see this side's really bumpy, this side's more smooth. The bumpy ones go towards the back, the head medial, so this would be a left side. Head medial, bumps to the back. It kind of also curves. If it goes this way, that doesn't really make sense if our knee is bending backwards, right? Kind of follows like the curvature of our body. So femur. Then in our lower leg, we also have two bones like in our arm. So femur up here. And then we have two bones down here, our tibia and fibula. I remember which one's which. The fibula is the little one. Fibula, little, and it's going to be lateral. So tibia, the big one's medial. But fibula, little, lateral is what I remember. Okay, so tibia, fibula. Okay, I'm just going to show you real quick. This is our tibia, the bigger one, kind of the triangle on the top, bump on the bottom. This you also need to know right from left, and this is the most difficult one, I think, out of all of them to tell. But if you look at the very top, the front side has this bump, and that's like on your shin. You know how you have like a bump on the front of your leg there? That's your tibial tuberosity. Okay, so the tibial tuberosity to the front, back side is smooth, right? So bump to the front. And the bottom, you see it's asymmetrical. You have a point only on one side of it. So bump to the front. And then, my battery died. Great. We'll finish up. 1 second. Okay. My camera keeps dying. I'm sorry. Anyways, so fibula, little skinny boy, string bean. Fibula, little lateral. Tibia is medial. So right or left for tibia. So again, tibial tuberosity is anterior towards the front. At the bottom, asymmetrical, so you can see there's this point on one side and not the other. That is a medial malleolus. So we know that these go side by side, right? Fibula, little lateral. At the bottom of our fibula is our lateral malleolus. At the bottom of our fibula, lateral malleolus, bottom of our tibia is the medial malleolus, right? So we have two malleoluses, but they're on different bones in the bottom of our leg. So if you look at our foot, let's look at my foot here, right? So you know how you have like the bones on either side of your ankle? So the medial bump there is from our medial malleolus on the tibia. The lateral bump on the outside is from our fibula, okay? So if you know that this bump has to be medial, we know that this has to be, if our tibial tuberosity is to the front, that this has to be from our right leg, right? Because this is the medial malleolus, the medial side. If you put this on our left leg, now that is lateral, and we know that that's not right, right? And even if you flip it around, now you have the tibial tuberosity in the wrong side. Okay, so tibial tuberosity to the front, And then this has to be medial. So we know this is the right leg. Okay, so that's a little bit more difficult, here's my feet, than the other ones. But it's actually my favorite one to figure out right and left, just because it's not as easy. I don't know, it's like a little challenge. But tibia has the medial malleolus on the bottom. Fibula, lateral, has the lateral malleolus on the bottom. Okay, so that's our lower leg. And then obviously you have the bones of your foot. So like the bones of your hand, I'm gonna go get, hold on. I'm not gonna go through all the bones with you, but in your hand, again, you have our carpals. First row is metacarpals, and then these are phalanges. So our metacarpals are numbered from big to small. So our thumb is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so big to small. So this would be your first metacarpal. This would be your fifth metacarpal. Phalanges are similar. They're numbered based on the finger. And you can see there's 3 of them. So this would be proximal, middle, and distal. So this bone in the middle of our middle finger would be our 1, 2, 3rd middle phalange. Our thumb would be our first. We only have 2 of them, 2 phalanges, because there's not as many joints and everything there. So this would be our proximal and distal. So this would be our first proximal phalange, our first distal phalange. This would be our 5th proximal phalange, our 5th middle phalange, and our 5th distal phalange. Okay, so carpals, no need to know the names of all of them, good luck. Metacarpals, phalanges. Our foot is the same way, except it's tarsals. So we have the bones of our ankle, our tarsals. Then again, we have the first row of long bones, our metatarsals. Again, number big to small. So our big toe is 1, our pinky is 5. So our first, second, third, fourth, and 5th metatarsal. And then the little itsy bitsy bones of our feet are the same as our hands, they're our phalanges. Our big toe only has a proximal and distal phalange, but the rest have a proximal, middle, and distal phalange. So again, 1 through 5, so this would be our 4th distal phalange at the very end. This would be our 5th middle phalange, right? So hands and feet, pretty straightforward. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to talk about. For the quiz, again, there'll be actually pictures of these things. You have your book that has really good diagrams and stuff labeled, so make sure you take good notes, really understand right and left, because that's something you can't just look in your book and kind of figure out that way, so that's something you need to really understand. If you want office hours or to like Zoom, even before Thursday, let me know. We can set up a time, and if you want me to like have the bones, I can either come in, or if you email me, I can bring them home ahead of time so I can kind of like show you them if you're confused on anything or need extra clarification. But that should be it for the skeleton. Again, there's a lot of stuff I skipped over, little features of the humerus, deltoid tuberosity, little things, greater and lesser trochanters, capitulum, trochlea, a bunch of stuff I skipped over because I feel like you have your book that has everything labeled, so it's pretty easy to see. As long as you have a general overview, understand where things at, you should be pretty good. And then I just realized the last thing, little sesamoid bone would be our patella. So this little guy, little round boy, is the patella. Okay, that's it. Bones, pretty straightforward. If you have questions, let me know. All right, bye guys.